Okay, good morning to everyone. This is day 2 of the 4th edition of the Trade with Africa Business Summit. And this morning I have, just an incredible speaker representing the United States government, and he'll be delivering to us the Prosper Africa presentation. This presentation is where you actually hold a pen and a paper. You don't want to miss a bit. If you blink an eye, you're going to miss so much. I just told him this morning, like, right here, this presentation actually makes the event, like if this is all you take out of the event, you have something for the next year. So bring out your pen, bring out your paper. I'm going to go ahead and introduce to you Mr. Bill Fanjoy, who is the Managing Director for the Domestic Commercial Engagement for Prosper Africa, which is a US government-led initiative. He's going to share so much more. So I don't want to take any more moment of his time. So Mr. Bill, you're welcome. You have the floor.
Toyin, thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for making the time for this very important conversation. Really, not just a conversation about resources, but a conversation, hopefully, among all of us online to form collaborative offers to compete in Africa and with Africans. Prosper Africa is I'm trying to move it ahead. And I'm clicking my arrow key. Oh, let me just click on it. There we go. All right, I did it. Okay, so Prosper Africa is an initiative that takes all of the resources of 17 agencies of the federal government and focuses them on your success. And for the first time, we are de-siloing trade from investment, from development. So we don't care where the resource used to lie, whether it was on the continent or back in the United States, there in the export sector or in the development sector. All of these areas are intertwined for most transactions, and that's truly what we're about. We're about transactions. So whether you're looking for a partner overseas in Africa, or you're looking to invest, or you're looking for financing, or you're looking for some sort of economic developmental challenge, they're intertwined, and we're here to help you. So the opportunity, as Toyin and I were discussing, is Africa. It's the emerging middle class, and I equate it to other economies that are larger, but not that much larger, like Latin America 20 years ago. They are where Africa is today. And wouldn't you want to have been getting into, let's say, Mexico 20 years ago rather than today? Well, now's your chance. Get into Africa now, because we all know what the numbers are, and we know where Africa is going. And with an emerging middle class, there is no one sector. They want everything. So we used to look at sectors like, it's got to be infrastructure, it's got to be mining, it has to be roads and railways and such. And that occurred in the United States before the middle class really expanded. When the middle class expanded in the United States in the 40s and the 50s, they wanted stuff like cosmetics, they wanted stuff like TVs, they wanted stuff like education, household goods, you name it. And that's where the explosion is created in terms of trade. And of course, the challenge is that the US trade is so pathetically low between the United States and Africa. So that's a challenge, but that's also an opportunity for us. So it used to represent 2% of our worldwide trade. And now it's down to 1.5%. And if you follow the stock market, when it goes down, get in. So I would plead with you, get in. The numbers, and Toyin will talk about this later because she's such a data-driven person, the numbers will follow or do create the scenario of success. And the solution is USG is creating this one-stop shop. So as you get in touch with us, perhaps through Toyin's group, or perhaps through any portal, there's no wrong door. We're going to look at all of the resources for your benefit and for a transaction solution. So in terms of our overall objectives, on the one side, we're looking at daily transactions, facilitating transactions, pipeline of deal opportunities. And at the end of the day, we want to be working with businesses that are ready to do business with Africa, or African businesses who are ready to do business with the United States. And so in that way, we are energized and ready to take your calls, ready to meet with you one-on-one. At the same time, we're shaping future opportunities. So the information that we get from you all on a day-to-day basis, we in the US government will use for shaping what US government resources need to be in order to facilitate transactions. What impediments to trade exist via our discussions, and how we at USG or on the ground at the US embassies, what we can do to remove those impediments. So it's about now and it's about the future. Basically, we're looking at 3 different buckets. And this makes sense if you're looking at trade or investment, and that is market intelligence, then deal support, and then financing. So on the intelligence side, we're going to be working with market insights, whether it's USAID subscriptions to trade and investment information, or information through the commercial service. So the Department of Commerce has got offices across Africa that provide country commercial guides. And so if you're looking at one country in particular, this is where you start. You look up the country commercial guide, and that tells you the best sectors, what's going on the ground, who the big players are, the bad players, et cetera, et cetera. It begins your search. US government is very good in terms of refined research, but in terms of overall, that's on you. And so to get that start, that's why we have a guide for each country. So you can take a look at it and say, and then surmise, is this a good country for my sector? And if it is, then we're looking at more customized market research. And that's nothing more than chatting with me or Jeremy or anyone on our Prosper Africa team or any of the 17 agencies and saying, I've got this great idea. It's coffee cups to Nigeria, or it's coffee cups from Nigeria. What do you think? And that's when we can talk to our people on the ground in Abuja, in Lagos, to discuss with them the market intelligence you have and test it with boots on the ground. 2 is in deal support, and that is broadly finding partners, vetting partners. That's very important. There are a lot of organizations who work all around Africa, and they're private sector, and we want you to engage with them. But here's your strength: the U.S. Embassy and the U.S. government. So would you like the U.S. government to find and vet for you partners? Because that really is how you reduce risk. You know, there are insurance policies, and I'm going to talk about that, whether it's through XM or DFC or different organizations. But at the end of the day, the greatest insurance policy is getting to know your partner on the ground, whether it's on the ground in the United States or on the ground in Africa itself. So having a reputable organization to vet these groups, find them and vet them for you, and then make sure that if you want to do a more in-depth due diligence on them, that we can do that. And what better organization to do that for you than the U.S. Embassy? About 50% of the time when the larger companies come to us and ask us to vet the companies that they found, they're ready to sign a contract. and they come to us and say, well, we would like you to do a little background check on this company. 50% of the time, this is worldwide, these due diligence reports come back red flagged. So they're done by USG, by the US Embassy, and what that tells the partner on the other side is, oh, you know something? You know where I said I did 5 gazillion? I think what I want to tell you is something closer to the truth, because they want to do more and more business with American businesses, and they simply don't want to lie to the US government or to the US Embassy. They want to be on that list. So they really are more forthright with what they are truly capable of doing. And then the third piece is securing financing. So finding for you financing, whether it's private sector or public sector, and public sector meaning US government, it could be a development bank, and it could be to the public sector, so with an African government, or it could be with a private sector as well. So all three pieces, and at the end of the day, what we're trying to do, and I'm sure Toyin's group is trying to do the same thing, is we're trying to put together a model of market insight, deal support, financing support, and then creating that model, replicating that model, and hey, let's then go to the next market. Let's replicate that. And if we do it correctly, then we will be able to replicate it in the very next model. So we've got a Prosper Africa toolkit that's going to lend itself to all of those areas that I just spoke on. And I'm going to talk about a number of those areas that I believe are the most important, kind of the go-to. When I go to Africa, when I sit down with a client, here's where I lead them, these tools. So they're separated out by exports to Africa, investment in Africa. So that is an African entity, a project owner coming up with a really good idea, like let's build a hospital. And they've got some backbone to it and they need some help. And they want us to look for an investor and perhaps create a pipeline, not only of investment, but of collaboration, technical, and then widgets, services and widgets to support that project. Third is exports to the United States. So not just through AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, but for any items. And this is our newer area. This is really the handshake between USAID that worked closely with AGOA and organizations like the African Development Foundation that provides training to African companies to export to the United States, and the private sector. And again, back to that de-siloing that I was talking about if that's an export to the United States, well, then you're going to have to work only with this organization in the USG and not this other one. Our job is to make sure that we pull from all of them, all of those resources. And chances are, if we put together a transaction from an export from Africa to the United States, what we've done is we've created a partnership, and it's going to go both ways, and it's going to lend itself back to exports to Africa or investment in Africa. And the last one is the investment help to investments in Africa. So we've got a private sector partner that will help package, review, package these investments, and then socialize these investments to the United States potential investors. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail down the road. So here's an example of success for exports to Africa. The Chicago business, Wendy Lamont, won a $100 million grid extension contract in Senegal. And the key here is down at the bottom, and that is tools at work, that it didn't just take one resource, and it's not going to be one resource that I talk about today, and it may be a resource that I don't talk about today. It's going to take numbers of resources. So in this situation, it was the U.S. Trade and Development Agency providing a feasibility study. And then it was our USAID people on the ground in Senegal acting as trade and technical advisors, and then EXIM financing, which is most of the time financing with the private sector. It's going to be a number of resources. So that's where we're going towards for you. We're going towards success, towards a real transaction, and making sure that we bring to you all of these required resources. And again, I'm going to tell you that we're a one-stop shop, so it's not your job to figure out these resources. That's our job. It's your job to realize that you could be a client and you could have an opportunity, and to give us a call or send us an email, and then come into our fold. And then our job is to lead you correctly. Okay, so let's start talking about the resources that I go to most of the time with US companies and African companies. And right now, it's a break for a coffee sip. So please take a sip yourself. Okay, so working with the Department of Commerce, the commercial service. The commercial service in the United States has 106 US export assistance centers. And so their job is to interface with American companies in their space, in their geographical location, so that they can get you ready to export and make sure that if there are local resources such as state resources, synergies of technical support, i.e. clusters of competitive collaboration, such as IT companies in around San Jose, or cybersecurity around Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, and Maryland. If there are local resources that need to be pulled together for your business before you're ready to meet a company in Africa, this is what the Export Assistance Centers do. They make sure that you're ready. And they've got sector specialists who focus only on your sector. So if you were here in the DC area and you were focused on cybersecurity, I would have you work with my colleague Pompea Lambrecht, who works every day with US companies in the DC in Northern Virginia area, only on cybersecurity and IT. The beauty there is that she knows all the pieces of the puzzle that are necessary, whether it's working with TDA or XM or SBA for financing, or local chambers or the state organizations. She helps put together those very local organizations for you to get ready to meet a partner. The idea is then the other side of the Department of Commerce in the commercial service is overseas, and they also have got sector specialists. So we've got in Lagos, we've got sector specialists again who work only in IT and who know the best companies, the biggest companies, the smallest companies, the bad companies, the good companies, the freight forwarders, the everyone dealing with that sector in Lagos. So you've got two areas of expertise. One is on the ground in the United States, getting you ready. And then they don't exactly do a handoff. They're still there the whole way because they're going to manage you the whole way. But then they're going to introduce you to our people on the ground in Lagos who also know your sector extremely well. And at that point, we're almost going to get out of the way and have you have a discussion with them of what are your objectives? What do you want to do? At the end of the day, exporting is a physical sport. And we want to get you on the ground, COVID or non-COVID, on the ground virtually, to meet a potential partner or get you on the ground physically. And our job is to make sure that you're ready and to have all those resources. And so that when we put you in front of a company in Lagos, if there's synergy, there would be no reason why you couldn't have a signed contract. I've got an example, actually, for Lagos in particular. I just popped into my head. And that was a company I was working with called Precision Tune Auto Care. So they do franchises like Jiffy Lube, oil changes, that sort of thing, here in the United States, across the United States. And they're experts at oil changes, at business, and at franchises. And what they're not experts on is expansion to overseas. So when they came to us, they said, we want to go to where there's a lot of money, where there are a lot of cars, and where there is very little risk. And to get this, we want to go to Germany because they had all those pieces. And our job was then to do some research on the ground in Germany for them to find a potential partner and to find out, is this the correct market? Is this the best opportunity? And to start to put together this deal. Well, it took us about a week to do, and then we put them on the phone with our people in Germany, but we also threw in France and about 10 other economies in Europe. And what do you think all of Europe came back saying? They said, the market is flooded. We've got a lot of these franchises. It's going to be really difficult for you to get in. Yeah, we've got a lot of money, but there isn't opportunity there. You need to go to where the market is growing and where the people are asking for this. They're asking for a Jiffy Lube. And so the short of this is we led them to Lagos. And of course they said, Nigeria, they're going to eat me alive. Nigerians are the savviest business people in the world, and they are. And I've lived in Africa for years and years. And my Africans in Mali or in Congo, they were afraid of going to Nigeria because they were going to be eaten alive. Well, our job with the US government is to make sure that you're going to meet a business operator in this situation in Lagos who understands you, who understands Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, who wants to meet you. And we're going to put together a package of insurance through Exim Bank, through financing with DFC, through background checks through the US government, through the US Embassy, further background checks, et cetera, et cetera. So when you sign an agreement, it's as rock solid as anywhere in the world. And we got you to the best partner. And that's what we did for Precision Tune Auto Care. It took us about 18 months, and that's our average. If you've got a widget or a service that's ready to go, it's going to take us about 18 months to find you the right market in Africa and to introduce you to the correct partner, make sure that we've got the correct pieces to the puzzle and that we do the right due diligence to where you can actually sign a contract. So it was about 18 months later where they signed a franchise in Lagos. It's still operating. This was 3 years ago. It's still operating today. And we continue to work with them. And we've expanded that from Lagos to about 12 other economies in West Africa, i.e., if you can do business in Lagos, boy, do we want to introduce you now to Ghana, to Benin, to Burkina, to et cetera, et cetera. We can replicate this model. These are the areas that the commercial service works in. And at the end of my presentation today, you're going to see the other resources that really add to this. Because this is really export only. And what we're trying to bring in is, would there be resources also with AID or with MCC or other organizations that have in the past worked only in development or only have worked in investment? I'll give you one other example. And that was because AID was a part of this. It was a US company trying to get into West Africa, and they wanted buyers of a nutritional paste for babies. And so they wanted buyers, and they wanted potential partners to actually make the paste there in country. So we flew we did our research, our market research using USAID on the ground in 5 different economies, because in this situation, we were looking for distribution in not in cities, but in rural areas. And in rural areas, we're USAID on the ground. So we had numbers of discussions with AID on the ground of whether or not this was going to work, whether or not there was an appetite for this product. And eventually, it took about 6 months before we sent the company to 5 different countries in Africa. And there we provided the nuts and bolts of, okay, we're going to fly you into Cotonou in Benin, and here's where you're going to stay. And then we're going to do a regional flight, then to Bamako in Mali, and then to Accra in Ghana. Very difficult to do. And that is what we do. It's the nuts and bolts of actually getting you on the ground and then getting you to sit down with that business operator in their operation. So not at the US Embassy, because there's nothing to be gained by meeting someone at the embassy. You actually want to get out to where the company is. And there we're going to provide translation, interpretation, drivers to get you out there, because it's the infrastructure may not be easy to get around. I know that it's not. It's challenging, but you can do it. But you need help. You may need help even being expedited at the airport. You know, the guy at the airport that has a sign, Toyin, follow me. I've got the car waiting for you. That's what they can provide. So we provided that for this client, trying to get on the ground to provide this peanut butter nutritional paste. And we set him up eventually, 18 months later, in Mali. When Mali shut down because of the troubles that they had there, we simply moved them to Kumasi, Ghana, where they operated. And then afterwards, we formed an agreement with USAID to provide training in Ghana of 7,000 farmers to help provide the peanut, the exact peanut that they needed for this paste. So there can be upstream help via market research. It could be financing through USAID, or it could be downstream training. And I will discuss that in a little bit more. So this was the commercial service on the ground. At the Department of Commerce, also, I need to make sure that you know that what we provide is also advocacy with a big letter A. So it's official advocacy. So if you find yourself in the position of bidding on a public sector tender, this is a ministry that's about to buy something, and you are bidding on this, and you don't think that you've got a chance because country X has got 7 other companies and you're number 8 on the list. Well, if you do nothing, then you'll get nothing from the US Embassy. But if you tell us that you're bidding on this contract, then believe me, God, we want to do everything that we can to make sure that, one, you are capable. And so we're going to do due diligence on you, and that's a good thing. And then we're going to try to convince the buyers of your capability. So at the embassy, whether we send over a commercial attaché, it could be the US ambassador going to discuss why you should buy American for this project. Or if it's only one American company bidding on a project, why you should buy from this company. What makes this company so special? And it may be a package of, we're going to help provide training as well. or it could be quality. It could be the due diligence. It could be caring about Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. There could be a number of pieces. But if you don't tell us that you're bidding on a tender, then we won't be able to advocate on your behalf to help you with that bid and to get that the country, the government, to take a good look at you. Every country does not have the strength that the United States has. And this is where you want to take advantage of being an American company. So give us a call if you are working in public sector. So now let's talk about financing. Because before a company goes overseas, you do want to have your financing set, and you do want to have insurance set. You don't want to meet with a company that's been well vetted by us and have that company that then say, yeah, I'd like to buy, but I need terms. Or you then say, wow, that's a big order. I need insurance. Again, we're making sure that you have all these pieces in place before you meet with that company, so that when you meet with them, you can tell them, here's financing, or I have insured the deal. It's going to cost a little bit more, a fraction of a percent. So XM, I never send a company to Africa without XM insurance. So ensuring, this coffee cup, I'm going to send it, and if they don't pay for it, then XM is on the hook for paying to you, and also a letter of interest. So for $80, I think it's about $80. If you have got a deal coming up, and you have got a number of years of financials to show XM, so you are a solid US company, then XM can offer a letter of interest. And so what this is like being a homeowner and you want to sell your house. So you're selling, right? And you're about to open the door and have buyers walk in. Well, you may think about talking to a bank in advance to say, hey, what if someone says, I'd like to buy your house, but I got to finance it? Because everyone does, right? You're looking for a mortgage. So it's no more than a letter saying, if you buy this American product, then we will offer these terms of interest and tenor, meaning how many years you would have to pay it back. There's a country, if you go to the XM website, there will be a country, I'm sorry, what is it called? It is called the Country Guide to Limitation Guide. And so that is each country in Africa, what is XM open to provide? So 7-year repayment, more than 7-year, or not open at all. Last piece about XM in terms of financing is, if you can provide information on your competition, XM wants to know if you are bidding against a state-supported company that has concessionary financing. That means unfair financing, that you can't possibly compete with that. Let's say it's financing of 1% and 20 years out. Well, if you can provide evidence to us on the ground, XM can take that into consideration. And because they do want you to be successful. They're not simply going to say, here it is, 3%, 7 years, that's all we can do. And there's no in-between period. That's what you get. No, they want to know what the competition is offering if it's unfair. And if it is unfair, then there may be some wiggle room, and there certainly may be wiggle room in their content, US content requirement. In general, their content requirement is 85% US. unless you're bidding against a state-supported organization, and at that point, they can reduce it to 51%. The idea is give us as much information about your competition as you can with evidence, and then that's going to be more information for us to come up with a better package. Most of EXIM's financing is public sector, and there are more pieces to our job at Prosper Africa or at the Export Assistance Center is if you need something to get you in front of an EXIM agent who can really talk about their policies in depth for what you're about to do. And this is a little further explanation about that. The letter of interest and buyer credit, single buyer, exporter credit, et cetera. DFC, which was the OPIC, Overseas Private Investment Corporation, they offer political risk insurance. They also provide feasibility studies, and they provide financing. Now, their financing is more focused on private sector. I believe their number is around 75%. If it looks like public sector is going to have more than 25%, then they'll escort you over to EXIM. But again, if you're looking at a transaction where you're not sure, should I have EXIM? Should I have DFC? Well, that's my job. I'm going to put together a meeting between you, DFC, and EXIM to see what the best fit is, or at least ask you for more information about this transaction and make sure that you know about political risk insurance and that EXIM or DFC also provides feasibility studies. Most of their feasibility studies are in the area of, it's a large number, $500 million. I'm sorry, $500,000, $500,000. So if it's, you know, and they want to buy in from you as well. So you're in for a certain amount, and you're looking for financing of up to $500,000 for the rest of the feasibility study. USTDA, again, is a go-to tool for two pieces. One is the feasibility studies, and their feasibility studies are focused on very specific sectors and very specific countries, and they've outlined the countries there. But what they also have is a training grant. So again, if you can provide evidence that you are your competition is unfair and is state supported, USTDA has training grants of up to $1 million. Where they'll look at your project and they'll say, okay, let's say it's you're going to sell a hammer. Well, you've got to have a description of how to, or an explanation of perhaps how to use the hammer. But they then would look at, well, why don't you put together a training program where perhaps we bring the project owners back from Ghana to the United States to a training program here to learn more about working with vocational training programs. So it's an extra training. It's something that you wouldn't normally have to do to sell widget X, the hammer, but it's extra to provide a little extra to be able to compete, to enhance your offer to compete better against those state-supported companies. And again, you're going to have to prove that you are competing against them. And if you don't enhance the offer, you ain't going to get the contract. So again, a lot is on you to prove to us that you are what your competition is. And if you can, we're all ears, and we can put together a more customized package. The idea here for all of our clients at Prosper Africa is that we're building an all of USG package so that when you're meeting with the private sector in Africa or the public sector, they know that you're working with the US Embassy there. They know that you're working with TDA, with XM, with DFC, with Prosper Africa. So it's not just one organization or one agency, it's all of us together. And that collective gorilla behind you provides the assurance to the I hope to buy American, that it's more than just you going it alone. It's more than just your company. So if you're a small company, I am pleading with you, look for this all of USG approach, because then it's not just your company. It's your company plus all of these agencies together that Prosper Africa puts together. USAID, again, so this is, for me, the newest value of what Prosper Africa is. It's taking this, de-siloing and bringing for you USAID resources that in the past have been intended for development purposes. Well, AID has got a lot of instruments and research and technical experts, advisors, financing that can lend themselves to your success. So one is financing, DIV, Development Innovations Ventures, and this is financing of up to $5 million over 5 years by orders of tranches. So I worked with a company when I was in Accra. It was a California company that wanted to put their solar solutions on the ground so that Ghanaian schools, districts, government leaders could see what the solution was. And so through DIV, they were awarded $250,000 to send their solution over, set up their solution in a number of schools. And then we ended up putting together an event at the school with the government leaders, with the private sector, with the schools, with other potential buyers of, here's the solution. We flew over the company from San Jose, or from Oakland, California. They were a very small company. We partnered them with 2 other American companies to enhance the solution, and then we allowed them the platform to explain their solution to these potential buyers. Only after we had the U.S. ambassador get up and talk about relations between Ghana and the United States. So that is what we can do for U.S. companies to give them that heightened platform. Wouldn't you want to get up to describe what your solution is after the likes of the U.S. ambassador? I'm not making a promise, but that is a fact. That is what we did. And other solutions from AID would be, a month ago, I was discussing with a company their laboratory in Lagos that was actually destroyed during recent riots. Well, it was about 3 months ago, right, Toyin? It's about that. And they wanted to know how to get up and running again. And we thought that this was private sector only, until we talked to USAID on the ground on behalf of this US company, and found that on the ground we had experts for USAID in ISO certification. So ISO certification is a long process of certifying to a certain level, and it's expensive. So we were providing the technical expertise of how to become certified, as long as it was in the health sector or the ag sector. And very often those are the sectors, they may have been development sectors, and we're talking about economic development. So economic development is going to be broader than just regular development in that I want this project. Health sector, ag sector, road sector, And so we provided the information and money for the ISO certification. Moving on, here is an example of AID on the ground in Africa to help in another vector, and that is exports from Africa to the United States. And in this situation, you can read it yourself, but again, we interface with the U.S. African Development Foundation to provide training grants of entrepreneurs in Africa for shea butter, shea products, and then worked with the West African Trade and Investment Hub and with on-the-ground resources in the United States to actually get these products on the shelf here at Target stores across the United States. This is a newer area of where Prosper Africa is working. New, it means to me, opportunity. So what we're looking for is, hey, Bill, we've got this opportunity of a product that's developed and we see an application in the United States. Can you help us? The answer is going to be yes, we can help you. Whether it's helping find a distributor in the United States or a grant to get you up to snuff, or to just do the vetting of your company. And you do want to be vetted if you're an African company, because you want this stamp of approval from USG saying, yeah, we added value and we stamped and said, this is a great company. And we want to do the same thing for a US buyer and for distributors. So the last organization that I'll talk about today, and then we'll open it up, so please start thinking about your questions, is MCC, Millennium Challenge Corporation. They spend 75% of their resources, okay, they're worldwide, 75% of their resources are in Africa. And here's my favorite statistic on MCC. They're very large compacts, normally $500 million, so very large, but very small contracts within those compacts. And only 17% of the time that US companies, or 17% of the contracts are going to US companies. So again, that's opportunity, because the contracts are based on transparency and the best solution for that country and for that economic development project. Here's the stat that you're going to love. 70% of the time that US companies bid on these contracts, they win them. 70%. How would you like to be have a 700 batting average coming up to bat? I can't say that it's going to be a home run every time, but that is not bad. MCC has a, please go to their website to look at which countries they're in and which compacts or thresholds, which is a smaller compact, are coming up. These are countries that have proven that if there is investment, economic investment in this country, there's no reason why the project would not work. So it's based on transparency, reduced corruption. Where the MCC compacts are is a very good roadmap to where perhaps you should look at, but is also a safer way to get into an economy if you're just beginning. I will leave you with a website that MCC has, and perhaps we could put this in the chat. It's mcc.dgmarket.com, and daily MCC addresses what are the contract opportunities today. in all of the countries where they have compacts and thresholds. So I happened to look one up. As soon as I got up this morning, I looked up what's the latest, and I'm sorry, the latest was May 29th. So it's a few days, I guess that was that Friday. And it was in Morocco, and it stated delivery, acquisition, installation, and switching on a techno pedagogical, I hope I said that correctly. That's not my area of expertise. Equipment for vocational training institutes. So you click on there and you're going to find out how to bid on that, when to bid on that, what the technical qualifications are, et cetera. A lot of the contracts are, they're huge contracts, and a lot of them are for single operator consultancies, perhaps one like yours. An investment in Africa example of where we worked is this contract or project in Djibouti. Now, here I'm going to lead you to our virtual deal room, because that's where investment opportunities like this one that is being financed is being socialized with US investors. And it's still in trial right now, but right now we've got 20, I believe it's 22 deals in the deal room. And these are deals brought to us by people like you of, again, I want to build a hospital in country X. And here are the parameters, here are my partners. I need an organization to help package it and to socialize it to various US investors, and then to start to play an in-between role of going to the investor and representing the investment, and then looking downstream at if the investment is invested in, then what products and services will come of it. So this is really early intelligence for future trade transactions. Please go take a look at this is on our front page at www.prosperafrica. On the left-hand side, you'll see a button for the virtual deal room, VDR. Click on it, register there, and then you can see the various deals. You can register your interest in one deal. So if there's more information about that deal, it will be sent to you. But more than that, I hope, is it will be examples to you of deals that maybe you're thinking about that you could bring to us and to socialize with us and to discuss, have a discussion on whether or not this is a deal that US investors are looking at. So folks, I'm at the end of my chat, which means it's in your hands. I'm looking, Toyin, I'm going to be looking to you for, are there questions and various areas that you'd like me to get into? But before I do, I like to tell you that, again, there's no wrong door. So you could send me a message, you could send Toyin a message, who will send it to me. You can send it to any of the agencies that we work with. No wrong door here in DC or overseas at the embassy. So Prosper Africa, and you've got our website there. Send us a note. We'd love to have a chat. Toyin, back to you.
Wow. Thank you, Bill. This is amazing. I do want to acknowledge the presence of Scott. Scott, I see you. I'll be with you in a moment as the next speaker. But wow, this is incredible. And for me, this is almost like a recipe book. And now we have to decide what meal we want to cook as a community in tapping into this resource. There are questions coming in. We may not be able to get to everything, but I do want you to tell a story, the story you were telling me, Bill, about the work you had done maybe 5 years ago with Trade Winds in terms of the diaspora, right? The diaspora. Please quickly share that story.
Toyin, okay, so it was about 6 years ago. I was directing the largest US government-led trade mission to Africa called Trade Wins Africa. We went to 8 different markets, and we took 107 companies that were extremely vetted. So we vetted about 50% of the companies out. And of those 107 companies, almost 30 of them are diaspora. And almost all of them within the year were successful, meaning that they actually had contracts. The reason why we focus on the diaspora is very simple. They've got relationships, they understand the culture, US culture, African culture, and they have got relationships, whether it's with a federal government or a state or a local, an arrondissement. They've got relationships and they know how to work those relationships. In Africa, as many places in the world, but I guarantee you in Africa, it's all about relationships and being on the ground. And diaspora companies are on the ground. They're looking to go to Africa to spend time on the ground. And my recent success with the diaspora company was when they were trying to get into Burkina Faso with a cybersecurity project. And they were doing it alone in the beginning. And they had the relationships with the ministry and they were bidding on a very large project, but they didn't have the strength, the largeness that they needed for the solution that the government wanted. So after going it alone for about a year, they asked us, are there other US companies that you could suggest that we could partner with to make our offer more enticing? And so we helped form a relationship between them and Cisco Systems, the bear. And they were so pleased with that they formed agreement after agreement with more diaspora companies, to tell you the truth. And Cisco writes this up as one of their greatest models of utilizing the intimacy and the knowledge that a diaspora company has in order to offer Cisco solutions to Africa. So the short of it is, at the end of the day, it only took about a year later. And so we had a solution. They had a win for an $80 million project in Burkina with 27 US companies in this consortium. So numbers of them were diaspora. Numbers of them had different competencies, like the equipment that Cisco Systems offered. And then we had a model that we could offer in other like economies. And just about 3.5 weeks ago, they were in Central African in CAR, and we had the Deputy Chief of Mission there to welcome them in open arms, because in Burkina we had them working with TDA, XM, Prosper Africa, the advocacy through U.S. Department of Commerce, the commercial section, the econ section. So as they moved to CAR, they were a known entity. And the more known that you become to USG, the easier it is for us to call the next embassy and say, look out, here they come.
Wow, wow, incredible. So here's the thing we have to do, because I really do want to honor Scott's time. We only have him for a short time, which is our next speaker. There are questions for you here. I'm going to read out a few, but we won't have time to answer them unless you wait till the very end. But the other thing I'm going to do is probably create a Prosper Africa section in our community and drop all of this question and then invite you and Jeremy to really sift through and respond individually to those questions. Because, you know, one is for not-for-profit organizations in America, extending to Africa, is there any help you can offer? There's another question here. Is there project from the private sector that needs equity financing? Where do we start? Each of these questions, they will require us to dive deeper. And I think the assignment I have is, wow, what an amazing resource, for the community, how do we then create structure in terms of how I pass that back and forth between your team and mine? I think that's the challenge. We have to build something, because I suspect more questions are going to come out of this, right?
No question will go unanswered, Toyin. And thank you very much for being the center to take these questions. And this is the no wrong door approach. So they can use your door, and we will get back to them promptly.
Fantastic. So bear with me, everyone. Bill and Jeremy, are you staying or you're leaving? Because depending on your appointment as well, I don't know if I can move this to the end of the day, and those who want to stay behind, even after we officially close out, maybe they want to have a session with you. Because I want to respect Scott's time. We only have him for his calendar was super booked. So I want to respect that. But I still also want to give people who want to interact with you, I do want to give them time, even when we officially close for the day.
Toyin, I think we'll leave, but
Okay.
then please email back.
Okay.
Or text me or call me and to tell me, Bill, time to get back on today. Because I would be more than happy to jump back on with a group who has other questions where the whole group could benefit.
Yeah.
Discussion. Be more happy.
Fantastic. And I do see future engagement. Like I said, there are some things that I see here, in terms of talking about 18 months. In my mind, I'm putting on my business hat. What could we do to shrink that for lower risk engagements? Because I do understand the 18 months and the due diligence it takes based on the threshold of number. But based on my business background, there are some things that if it's a million and above, you need this level of appraisal, you need this level of approval. But if it's this particular threshold, 50,000, 10,000, yeah, you could bypass all of this, So that's something that I'm walking away with in terms of what's the size of the project, and do we really have to take 18 months to get it to close? Or could we design a new structure? I mean, that's what I do, process improvement for my community based on their size. And we could say, EXIM, this, we could shrink it down. 3 months, you're good to go, particularly when we have both partners on both sides at the table, and all we need is financing. So those are the thoughts coming to my mind. I just want to bring my experience to the table as well on behalf of my community and in partnership with your office for sure. Everybody help me to thank Mr. Bill. Any parting words as we switch over to Scott? Oh, you're mute.
Thank you for the opportunity. And I look forward to hearing from your participants what their needs are, what the concerns are, so that we learn more here about Prosper Africa. And we especially want to make sure we're working with women-owned business, minority business, diaspora business. So there you go.
Bill,
you are our poster child.
Yes, carry me on your wings. Fly away. Miss Vera is dancing too. Mr. Desati as well.
We are inclusive. We will work with all sizes of companies, but we're focused on SMEs. And we look forward to working with.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And please do keep dropping your questions, because part of what we do is we move this conversation to the network, Nezaru.trade, and we continue that conversation. Thank you again, Mr. Bill and Jeremy. You hear from me for sure.
Cheers.
Thank you, sir.